KNDS CAPINT concept gains momentum with ASCALON 140mm firing on the move demonstration. KNDS has demonstrated the firing on the move capabilities of its 140mm ASCALON technology path, with footage released by the company on June 29, 2026, highlighting how its next-generation firepower concepts are progressing beyond static testing as CAPINT emerges as France's proposed bridge between the Leclerc XLR and the future MGCS. The demonstration underscores a critical battlefield advantage, as combining accurate mobile fire with an unmanned turret and protected crew architecture could significantly improve survivability and first-shot lethality against increasingly capable armored threats. The footage showcases the ASCALON demonstrator turret ADT-140 engaging targets while the vehicle is moving, validating the integration of gun stabilization, auto-loading, recoil management, and advanced fire control systems under dynamic conditions. Together with CAPINT's scalable turret architecture, the trials illustrate KNDS' strategy of preserving NATO interoperability with 120mm systems while preparing European armored forces for the greater firepower, automation, and networked combat requirements of the next decade. On June 29, 2026, KNDS France released footage showing firing on the move trials linked to the 140mm ASCALON firepower path, offering a rare look at the evolution of the company's next-generation tank technologies. The video follows KNDS' unveiling of CAPINT at Eurosatory 2026, presented as an intermediate capability intended to bridge the gap between France's Leclerc XLR and the future Main Ground Combat System, or MGCS. More than a promotional sequence, the footage highlights the operation of a remotely operated turret architecture and the firing cycle of the 140mm ASCALON gun under dynamic conditions. For modern armored warfare, this is highly relevant because accurate fire on the move can decide whether a tank wins first contact or becomes a stationary target. CAPINT, short for Capacite Intermédiaire, is KNDS' proposal for France's next heavy armored combat capability before MGCS. The vehicle is based on an enhanced Leopard 2A8-derived chassis combined with a KNDS France ASCALON unmanned and non-intrusive turret. The configuration unveiled at Eurosatory 2026 is equipped with a 120mm smoothbore autoloaded ASCALON gun, while the wider ASCALON architecture is designed to be scalable from the NATO standard 120mm caliber toward larger calibers. This distinction is important. CAPINT is the near-term French capability proposal, while the 140mm firing sequence belongs to the ASCALON growth path demonstrated through the ADT-140 turret. The main technical interest of the June 29 footage is therefore the firing sequence of the ASCALON demonstrator turret, or ADT-140, armed with the 140mm ASCALON gun. KNDS previously described the ADT-140 as a remotely operated turret developed to anticipate MGCS technologies, including sensor fusion, hemispheric active protection, artificial intelligence, cyber resilience, hybrid energy applications, and future larger-caliber firepower. The video shows the practical side of this concept, a remote turret engaging while the platform is moving, demonstrating how stabilization, auto-loading, recoil management, fire control systems, and crew-machine interface functions must work together in real time. The crew arrangement associated with CAPINT also reflects one of the strongest design trends in next-generation main battle tanks, separating the operators from the turret and ammunition handling area. CAPINT's architecture places the crew inside the hull rather than inside the turret, with a three-person crew located entirely within the chassis and paired with an unmanned ASCALON turret. This layout is intended to increase crew survivability by reducing exposure to turret penetrations and ammunition-related damage, while also allowing the turret to be optimized for firepower, protection, sensors, and automated loading rather than human workspace. The development path behind this system shows how KNDS is moving from the Leclerc and Leopard families toward MGCS-related technologies. The company has used the EMBT and EMBT ADT-140 demonstrators to mature the ASCALON family, while CAPINT gives the architecture a more direct role in France's future armored capability planning. KNDS has stated that ASCALON has already fired approximately 300 rounds and that a world-first dynamic firing campaign was achieved in January 2026 in Portugal with an MBT demonstrator fitted with a remote control turret. The June 29th footage should therefore be understood as part of a broader validation campaign rather than a simple marketing video. Compared with current 120mm NATIA standard tanks, the ASCALON 140mm pathway is designed to restore future overmatch against increasingly protected armored threats. The 120mm gun remains operationally relevant because of NATO ammunition compatibility, logistics, training infrastructure, and existing stockpiles, but a larger 140mm system offers greater growth potential for armor penetration, advanced ammunition effects, and future high-energy rounds. By developing ASCALON as a scalable family, KNDS is seeking to preserve near-term interoperability while preparing for the firepower demands of the 2030s and beyond. This approach also positions KNDS differently from other European large-caliber tank gun concepts. Rather than presenting the 140mm gun as an immediate replacement for 120mm weapons, KNDS is emphasizing a family architecture that can move from 120mm to 140mm depending on threat evolution and customer requirements. This gives CAPINT and ADT-140 complementary roles. CAPINT addresses the need for a credible intermediate capability before MGCS, while ADT-140 demonstrates the higher caliber technologies that could shape the next generation of European main battle tanks. CAPINT is also more than an interim tank in the traditional sense. KNDS presents it as part of a multi-platform combat system combining a central tank platform, robotic wingmen, counter-UAV capability, open digital architecture, protection systems, and battlefield connectivity. This reflects the lessons of recent high-intensity warfare, where tanks are no longer judged only by armor thickness and gun caliber, but by their ability to survive drones, detect threats early, exchange data, and operate inside a wider sensor-to-shooter network. A CAPINT force equipped with unmanned turrets, larger caliber growth potential, and robotic support could give France a credible bridge between the Leclerc era and MGCS, while preserving national expertise in autoloaders, turrets, fire control systems, and tank armament. From a tactical perspective, firing on the move is one of the most important indicators of battlefield maturity. A tank that must stop to fire exposes itself to enemy armor, anti-tank guided missiles, loitering munitions, drone-corrected artillery, and top-attack weapons. By contrast, a tank able to detect, track, stabilize, and fire accurately while moving can reduce exposure time, maintain momentum, and increase its chances of achieving the first effective shot. If the ASCALON 140mm demonstrator can combine this level of mobility with the stabilized firing standards historically associated with French Leclerc technology, the result would not simply be a heavier gun, it would represent a new tactical standard for European armored maneuver. The message from KNDS France's June 29th footage is clear. The future of tank combat will depend on the fusion of protected crews, unmanned turrets, stabilized large-caliber firepower, and digital battlefield integration. CAPINT is not only a response to the capability gap before MGCS, it is also a testbed for how European armies may fight with heavy armor in the next decade. If KNDS can mature the ASCALON 140mm firing Gaunthamov concept into an operational capability, CAPINT and the ADT-140 demonstrator could become important stepping stones between today's main battle tanks and the networked armored combat systems of the 2030s.